everybody. Welcome to the Our Healing Voices podcast and YouTube channel. I'm Aaron Lehman and really excited for my interview today with Idara Ekpoh. And before I introduce her and we dive in together, I just want to, those of you who are brand new to the podcast and YouTube channel, want to give you a quick download as to where you are and what you're listening to. So I am a curious being. I really like getting to know people and find out like what their stories are and what their life's been like and why they are the way they are and what beliefs are impacting them. And so that is honestly one of the biggest reasons that this podcast was launched, because I go to coffee shops and I'm like, dang, I wish we were allowed to talk to each other. Like I have this goes off in my brain, or I wish I could like ask a question and that it would just pop up above the person's head, like in a little like emoji thing or like emotional, like, or a box, that I could just get like downloads. Cause I'm just curious. I've just been curious since I was little. And here over the last 15 years, 20 years since college, like my curiosity about belief systems and values and healing has like amplified over the last 20 years. And so I'm especially curious to hear about people's wellness journeys and people's health journeys and people's own personal body, mind, spirit healing journeys. So that is also why this podcast is live and rocking, because I just love hearing what other people have gone through and how they've, walked through that in ways and what's helped them through that. Because oftentimes I think if only we knew each other's stories, if only we knew like what was going on for that other person, maybe we would have like courage that we could get through that same or that a similar situation also, and so anyway, and then the last piece is voices. Again, I just really am excited to highlight people's voices because I recognize the fact that I could drop wellness downloads for like 150 episodes, and some people would be able to hear my voice. And yet a lot of people would not be able to hear my voice. And so I just really get excited about the unique voices in the room, and I think that the more we can have that open dialogue where we can learn from each other and where people feel safe to share their voice, I think the better, especially right now. I'm praying and visioning bridge builders, voices of bridge building, in this world that we're living in right now, where it's like, boy, I just, and yes, anger and, strong opinions are a part of the journey, right? But I still yearn for us to find a way to listen, and so that's also a motivation behind this, is like, how can we hear each other? I want us to hear each other, come curious. So I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for coming. Thanks for stopping by the podcast, the YouTube channel, wherever you found us, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook. I'm just thankful. And without further ado, let's dive in, Idara. Like we go back, we figured out, before starting this about 8 years ago, I rolled up into her student council class in high school and was captivated by your warmth, your presence, your joy, your honesty. You dropped in with me just in that, I think in that 90, I think I must have done some sort of workshop or something with class in a circle, I would imagine. And we kind of like shared popcorn or something, and I just, you understand me then why I'm like curious about to hear people's stories. So tell us a little bit about you. What, as you think back on, so if you graduated in 12, then you're 8 years post, you're 26-ish, 25, 26? Something like that? 26. Yeah. So the first 26 years of your life, what, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today. Like, you're rocking it on photography and creative storytelling and just going all in on this just beautiful work you're doing.
Thank you.
I definitely am excited for people to connect with you in that realm. So that's beautiful. And then you're also rocking a full-time gig with Banner Health and in diversity and inclusion, and like working with in that world. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about how what were there some pivotal moments, in the last 26 years that have you where you're at right now? Tell us a little bit.
Oh, wow. So first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
That's so yeah, my name is Idara Ekpoh, 26 years old, Nigerian-American, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I've lived here my entire life, so throughout the whole 26 years has been here. Um, I guess I don't even know where I even start. I do remember it was my senior year student council. I remember that was when I first had met you. So that was 8 years ago. And it's quite funny because who I was 8 years ago is nowhere near who I am now. However, I do think that there's a lot of similarities in regards to my character, my energy, and things of that nature. I was just in completely different space. I remember in high school or graduating high school, not really knowing who I was as an individual, who Idara necessarily was, feeling comfortable in my skin as, a Black woman, a Nigerian woman, a woman in general, and feeling comfortable as who I was. I wasn't really in a space where I was comfortable. I felt like, I think that I was in a space where I was kind of focused more on maybe pleasing those that were around me and just being like kind of like that quote unquote token, like I didn't question anything. If things made me uncomfortable, I didn't really push back on them. I usually just kind of allowed myself to be that kind of almost like punching bag and just kind of let continue to move forward. So it's interesting that we're having this conversation 8 years later, because I think who I was then is not who I am today at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I am currently a portrait photographer that's again based here in Phoenix, Arizona, that focuses a lot on amplifying Black voices through the medium of being photography. I also focus on just honestly just storytelling, whether that is telling my own story or telling the stories of those, whether they're friends, other people in the community, things of that nature. And alongside with that, I do work in diversity and inclusion. And so I've been working in the space for about 1.5 years now. I went to the University of Arizona for physiology, actually, because the idea out of high school was that also being a first generation kid and a child of immigrants, the expectation is like you're going to be one of three things. You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a nurse, or you're going to be a lawyer. Or so a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. Those are the only three options that you have. So you can imagine, for me, I picked what was, the only option in my house was just to be a physician, to go to med school. So I went through undergrad with the expectation that was going to be what I would do. I got a physiology degree. Kind of struggled, but I made my way through and got my above 3.0 GPA and did what I needed to do. But when it came time to take that MCAT, that's when I realized, like, you know what, I don't think that this is something, even if not to say I can't do it, but I don't think this is something I want to do. And I don't think this is something that I feel like will fulfill me. I think that was probably one of the first moments that I took an opportunity to just make a decision for myself. I think a lot of my life has been allowing other people to make decisions or allow other people speaking for me. And so I think that was probably one of the first times where I had the opportunity to just make a decision for myself. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to choose a different route. And so at that point, I chose to go to grad school, got it myself, a master's in public health, as well as a master's in business administration. And so now I'm working at Banner, working diversity and inclusion, and absolutely love the work that I do. Photography, however, came into the equation back in 2016, so my senior year of college. I actually took a photography class in high school, but I don't really even say that it counts. Not that it doesn't count, but I more so took it just to fulfill a credit. I was not interested in the concept of photography. The cool thing is, and I wish I cared, because I think there's so many great things that I would have learned then. Like, we had both a digital and film aspect. We were learning like how to shoot digitally, shooting in studio, Lightroom, Photoshop. And then on the other side, we were shooting film and learning how to develop your own film and all this cool stuff that nowadays I want to learn that information. But at the time, I could care less about it. I was just kind of like, I need this art credit and this is what I'm going to do. So that was my first exposure to photography, was back in high school. I think that was my senior year. And then fast forward to 2016, it was January 2016. Well, even actually before that, my 21st birthday was August of 2015. And I remember asking my mom for a camera. And I asked her for that camera because I was like, you know what, Mom? Like, I don't think you understand. Like, these kids on campus, these photographers on campus, they're making money. And I remember telling her, like, you know, I'm working this, you know, this job on campus where I'm making $8 an hour. And I just feel like if you can get me a camera, I'll be making more money, just like everyone else. And for my mom, and I think even like any Nigerian parent, for her, at first when I told her I wanted to do photography, she was like, you need to focus on your books. I don't know why you're trying to focus on anything else, but that does not need to be where you focus on. But once I told her, hey, like I can make some money, she's like, oh, money, that means less money out of my pocket. You can go and just make your own.
Yeah.
And so she got me my first camera. And I had used it just a couple of times just for some portraits, but I didn't really feel confident or I didn't know what I was doing. So it kind of just like sat on my shelf for the most of the time. And then it was January 2016. I had a friend who, we were all getting ready to graduate the upcoming May. And obviously your senior year, you're taking grad photos. And I remember her asking me, hey, Idara, can you take my grad photos? And I this was literally, because it'll be 5 years next month. And she was just like, no, like, you have a camera, like, I'm sure you'll be able to do it. And I was like, girl, I don't even know if I know how to use these buttons. Like, I have this camera, but it doesn't mean that I know how to use it. I know how to turn it on. And I'm sure I can figure out how to take a picture, but I'm not confident enough for this to be your grad photos that you're going to refer back to for the rest of your life. But she had convinced me to do so, and she got a great deal out of me. She was like, take my grad photos, and I think maybe she bought me lunch. Like, it was not a fair exchange at all, but it's what started my journey. And so I took her grad photos, and she absolutely loved it. And she was the one that encouraged me, and we're still friends to this day. She was the one that encouraged me to start taking pictures of other people. And so that turned into me taking grad photos of other people. I started off with friends. So I think that semester I probably did 10 to 15 friends. Then from that, once I graduated, I did go to grad school immediately, but I always referred back to photography again as that way to make extra money. So I was doing grad photos, I was doing family photos, portraits in general, events. I had done my first wedding maybe a year or two after that I started shooting, but maybe about, I don't know, maybe 2 years into my journey, that's when I really started to focus more so on photography, not necessarily being a way for me to make some extra cash, but more so actually loving the art about it. And I think what really, even though in the beginning it was more of a money thing for me, I think I really, really enjoyed the people aspect of it. Taking portraits of people and just connecting and being able to take a picture of someone and then feeling shy, and then I show them the picture and they're like, oh my goodness, that's me. I feed off of that energy where people are looking at themselves and they're proud of who they are. And I feed off of, me being able to show them that part of themselves. Does that make sense? So that's what I think, like, even though throughout my whole entire photography journey, I think that's one thing that's been consistent is my connection and my love for people. But about maybe 2 years in, I had the opportunity to go to Nigeria for the first time as an adult. So I'm Nigerian-American, and I'd been back when I was a kid, but I hadn't been back since that point. So we took a trip back home. I think it was June or July of 2018. And being able to capture images of my culture, my family members, my grandmothers that by God's grace are still alive today, and just capture so much of the essence and the beauty behind my culture was really, really important to me. And that's when I started to fall in love with visual storytelling and just being able to capture and tell stories through the art of photography. So yeah, I've been doing this it'll be 5 years next month, and My work, I still do I'll do grad photos. I don't do weddings or a lot of portrait stuff as much as I used to. I'll do them by request. I don't go out and say, oh, I'm a wedding photographer. Oh, I'm a grad photo photographer. If people know or ask and I'm in the place where I can, I will do it.
Mhm.
But a lot of my work now, especially, is just focusing on storytelling. I'm doing a lot of self-portraiture now because of, COVID and trying to still create in the midst of my house. But yeah, that's who I am. That's me, my journey, where I was, where I'm at, and
Yeah.
I hope that covers everything.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That's a wonderful drop in. Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay, so I hear you saying it's like raised Nigerian-American, parents came here as immigrants, and then you're born here, born in Phoenix, and have lived in Phoenix your whole life.
Mhm.
And, normal expectations are, you said doctor, engineer,
Lawyer,
or
yeah.
lawyer. Those are
But
like,
in my household, it was really only doctor. Both my parents are nurses.
okay.
So the only expectation we had I remember my dad had said to me, it was either my dad or my mom, and they said, we're both nurses, so you can't be a nurse, you need to be better. So you need to be a doctor. And so the one thing I will say is, with what I went through and having the conversation with them, like, hey, I don't want to do this. I think I want to go and do something else, really helped for my siblings, because now my parents they don't have the expectation of you need to go and be this. They're really flexible and they understand that you can find success in any different avenue as long as you're good at what you do, right? So
Mm,
I have one brother that also works in healthcare. My sister doesn't want to go to med school, so that's it still worked out for them with her. I
yeah.
have my youngest brother, he just started college. He wants to go into computer science, and that's what he's doing now. So still good careers, but they have the flexibility to choose what they want, and they weren't
Mhm.
forced into anything. So I do think that what I went through and my struggles at one point, it really helped the rest of them. So
Yeah. Those conversations were hard, I would imagine.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because for my mom, it was, if you're not going to do this, what are you going to do? And what does that mean for you? Like, what does success mean in that space? And I
Mm,
think a lot of the time success in their terms is connected to money.
mhm,
Because there is a sense of security you have when
mhm,
you know that you can pay for your life. You don't have to worry about your bills. You don't have to worry about taking care of your family. So I can completely understand from a parent's point of view, especially parents that have immigrated and left one country to another and started from literally nothing to where they're at now.
mm.
They want to set their kids up for success, and so they're going based off of their experiences, and they're lecturing me and pouring into me based off of that, and it's coming from nowhere other than love. um,
Mhm.
I think that for me, I think I wanted the flexibility and freedom to know that I know that I didn't want a lifestyle. I didn't know what that life looked like at the time.
Mhm.
I just knew that I didn't want a life where I was dealing with a physician's schedule. Like, I didn't want that I like flexibility.
Mhm.
I like being able to do, like, I don't even see myself doing just one thing for the rest of my life. I see myself juggling 4, 5, 6 different things, right?
Mhm.
And I like that flexibility and that freedom to choose what I want to focus on when I want to focus on it.
Yeah.
um, I saw that a life of going into medical school and residency and all of these different things, not saying that you couldn't do it, because I have friends that are, it's
Mhm.
just a lot more difficult, and I wasn't passionate about that space. So I'm not
Mhm.
going to put myself anywhere where I won't be able to feel fulfilled. I know that I can still be successful, be financially, good as well,
Yeah.
and still at the same time happy. So it was just for me to figure that out.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, to have those courageous conversations, because I remember at 18 you mentioning that was up for you, like, because here I was this, I think I was massaging at the time, like using
Yeah.
my massage license and substitute teaching a little bit, yeah, speaking a little bit, and yeah, and you were like processing, yeah, what path do I really want to take? Like, I'm not sure that's what I want to do. Uh,
Hmm.
so amazing. I'm just inspired by your willingness to have those conversations.
Yeah.
I'm sure those
It-
were, I'm
it's
sure those were scary and stressful and
Oh
all
yeah,
the things.
they were very scary.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have supportive parents, and so they've never forced me to do any. I mean, outside of like saying like you need to have this major going into college. Once I finished my first degree and then had the conversation with them. It took a while, but they came around, and they've been nothing but supportive, till now. They're the ones that are like, hey, do you think you want to do this photography thing full time? Like, I think that you could, do this and da, da, da. And I'm like, when I was starting photography, you guys were asking me what was I doing, and now you're the ones encouraging me. So
Yes.
I definitely do see that my parents are like my biggest fans in that
Oh,
sense.
that's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, I think that's what parents want, and all of us kids want at the end of the day, right? Is like your parents really ultimately want to see you smile and feel fulfilled, and we really just want to be cheered on in whatever path or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's so cool. So as you go back, back when you went back in 2018 to Nigeria, what were some of the moments? I was cruising through your Instagram a little bit and saw some images and photos of
Yeah.
you with your grandmas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what did that mean to you? What were some of the pieces that you took away from that
It was, I think that especially being first generation, I think the biggest thing for me is still being connected to my culture.
Mhm.
It's very, very difficult in the United States, especially growing up. So I didn't actually start appreciating my Nigerian side, me being Nigerian, because it's not even Nigerian side, I am Nigerian, right? So I
Right.
didn't get to the point where I was appreciative of that and open and wanting to learn more of my culture until my maybe junior year of college, end of sophomore year going into junior year of college. Because I wasn't really, I grew up in a predominantly white area. All of my friends out of high school were mainly white. I had a couple of Black friends, but no other friends that were really African. All of my African friends were, or anyone that it was just family, cousins and stuff like that. But once I went to college, and this is why I think it's so important for universities to have, different groups, cultural groups especially. I joined the African Student Association. So that was the moment where I felt the most. So when I left high school, and I'm talking about, I didn't feel seen. I didn't know who I was. I felt other people were making decisions for me and saying whatever they wanted, and I let them walk over me. It wasn't until probably end of sophomore year, junior year, where I joined that association that I started to learn more about who I was and feeling comfortable with who I was, because I found people that looked like me, came from similar backgrounds. Even if they weren't Nigerian, they were Ghanaian, they were from Zimbabwe, South Africa, whatever country they were from. We all have, a lot of Africans, we all have like a similar, especially as first generation, or whether or not you immigrate and you're here for school, we have a lot of the same stories. I think there's power in that, and being able to see yourself and other people and the people that surround you. So I think that's when I started to appreciate culture and my culture in general. So when I had the opportunity to go back, and I do think that almost is like, because my parents have been wanting to send us back for a while. I think it's just kind of with school schedules and things that we had planned, it was just never the right time. But I think that almost like, I like to say, like, it happened in God's timing, because me having my camera, I wasn't a photographer, in college until end of college, right? So me having my camera, being in a space where I'm Nigerian as heck. I'm like, I love my culture. I'm really, really excited. I think I was in the best place to really go home and absorb as much as I could. So I had gone back June of 2018, and then I went again in September of 2018, and then again in July of 2019. And I was supposed to go this year, but then COVID happened, so I'm not doing that. Okay. But when I first went home, it was just so, I think the first thing that I noticed is that you quickly feel like you're at home because everyone looks like you. So I didn't have to feel like I stood out. I didn't have to, you still stand out in the sense of, some people can tell depending on what you wear. And when you start to talk, they can tell you're American. So I just try to not, depending on who I'm around, I try not to talk as much and stuff like that. But you easily blend in because everyone looks like you. So that was the first thing that I noticed, The second thing was just how beautiful and rich our culture is, being able to go home, take pictures of my grandmother, who I hadn't seen. My dad's, I have pictures of both my grandmothers on my Instagram. I think I even have a picture with the both of them. My dad's mom, I hadn't seen since she came to the United States with my grandfather. My grandfather's now passed, but they came in 1998. I want to say, or early 2000s, one of the two. I
Mhm.
hadn't seen her since that point. And, I hadn't really spoken to her as well. She doesn't speak English. She only speaks her native tongue. I can hear our tongue. I can't speak it like well enough as well. So there's always been that barrier in communicating. So it was really, really important for me to see her because I hadn't seen her since that time. My mom's mom, however, she had been in the United States for 10 years and she was really pivotal in regards to helping my mom raise us. But she left like a long time ago, right? And so I hadn't seen her in a very, very long time either. So I think being able to be there, see them, and one, being grateful that they're both still alive. I've lost both of my grandfathers. My mom's dad, I had only met when he was a baby, and then my dad's dad, I met when he came with my grandmother back in 2000. So being able to have them both be alive was really important to me. And then being able to capture them, because there's the thing about a picture and a portrait is that you can really capture someone's essence, who they are, and that is something that will live like even past my own time, like it will be here. So I love that I was able to capture that, because that's an image. All the images that I took of my grandparents, my parents and their siblings appreciate them because they now have documentation in a beautiful way of their parents, So I think that was powerful. Being able to just experience our rich culture, go back to the village that my parents grew up in, and just see where they came from. I think it's very easy to be oblivious and be like, oh, I live in the United States. Like life, like there are things I have to worry about here, yes, but the struggle my parents went through, I have not seen. I don't know what that struggle is.
Yeah.
So to go back home and to see the village that they came from, to see how they were able to to be able to be walked through their childhood, essentially. We went to both of my grandparents' houses, and I know my uncles and my cousins, but seeing them a lot for the first time, and it was just overwhelming. So I don't know. I think that experience will forever stay with me, which is why I really wanted to go back again. So I went back in September, went back again the following July, and I had plans to go this year. I was planning on going in December, but I'm not planning on going. I'll go next year. But it became important for me that every year, if I can, or every other year, that I would make a trip back home, because at the end of the day, I have a home here, but my true home is there. And so I have the home that I know, I grew up here and I'm very, very comfortable here, but where my roots are and where a lot of the people that have sacrificed for me to be in the position that I'm in is back there. So that is my true home. And so it's really important for me to be able to respect that and be aware of that, and to make sure that I can do as much to know as much as about my culture. So then that way, when I have my future kids, they can learn about it through me, right? Like I can feel comfortable enough to take them back home, or, hopefully I'm trying to learn my language so I can actually speak it. So that could be something that I can future teach them, because I think the biggest fear that a lot of parents have, especially parents of first generation kids, is that loss of culture. You're in a whole different country. I have Nigerian friends, but at the end of the day, we're in America. There's a mixture of different cultures, and things can get lost, whether it's the languages that we speak, the food we eat, our essence, our culture, etc. It can get lost. And that's a fear that I have. I don't want to ever get to a point where my generation or my kids or whoever forgets that portion of where we come from. So I think for me, being a photographer and being in the space that I'm in, it was really important for me to capture as much as I can of that, because that's only something that I can use, to my advantage later on. So hopefully that makes sense. I know I gave a very long answer, but
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Yeah. So really, do you feel like it's almost you returning there was like so pivotal. Just game changer. The fact that you want to go back like every year or two or whatever.
It was pivotal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember even before that point, before that trip going back home, I didn't say that I was a photographer. I was like, I didn't really feel comfortable calling myself a photographer because I felt like I didn't really own that title because I didn't go to school for it. I'm self-taught. Like I just picked up my camera and like learned from YouTube University, like and made my way through.
Yeah.
But when I went home and I took these photos and hearing the responses of my parents and my uncles and a lot of the, the family members that, that's their home, they grew up there. And the way that they appreciated that art made me feel like, okay, I feel like I'm called to do this. And so that was a really pivotal point to me where I felt like I am meant to be here to do that form of storytelling, to capture story, to capture people, and to document essentially. And so, yeah, it was really, really huge for me. And I can talk about Nigeria and that experience and those photos, because that's still to this day, a lot of my favorite work, because I didn't have to mimic anything. I didn't have to like tell anyone to act a certain way or pose. I just took pictures of what it was, and that in itself was powerful. So it's definitely a trip I will always remember, and it's something that I always, again, make sure I have it as a priority to go home as frequently as I can, just because it's just really important to me at this point.
Yeah. What aspects of the Nigerian culture and the values that your parents taught you, and like what, for the world of America, the world of the United States, like what are we missing? I mean, sometimes I just feel like we're missing a lot, like we're a little lost. And so what, just in your own analysis, like what would be some values that you feel so grateful to have been raised in, that if we had more of these things,
That's an interesting question. I've never really thought of it in that sense. I think that the one thing that I will say about culture in Nigeria, like my culture specifically, I love the whole like, I think there's a saying that like a village raised a child, or whatever that saying is, right? Like, so family is a huge, huge component, where like, not only even here being in the United States, like a lot of my uncles, my aunties, even not even blood related, right? So we have cousins, I have uncles, aunties that I'm not blood related to whatsoever, but still play a pivotal point in my life because, they were there for my parents at some point, or they helped babysit me, or whatever the case may be. It truly takes a village to raise a child in that sense. So I think there's that family piece. I think Nigerians specifically are very, and I'll speak to Nigerians, but they're very, very hardworking. Like the work ethic that Nigerians have is so inspiring. And that's why like my parents, and seeing how my parents came from, like, I sometimes even just, because I was having a conversation with my dad about this the other day, where he was like, we were talking about how old he was when he married my mom. My dad was 32, my mom was 26. And I was trying to put myself in my mom's shoes. Like, she got married to my dad, and then she came to the United States for the first time, right? So she came here at 26. And I remember like just thinking of like me today, if I was to be uprooted out of here and told I have to go somewhere else, and I'm going to a whole new country and starting with literally not knowing, the only person she knew was my dad.
Yeah.
Didn't know anybody else outside of my dad and her sister that lived in another state. But like she didn't really have much, like they didn't have much, they had each other. And to really from that build and create a life that they have now. And a lot of Nigerian, and I see that same trait in not only my parents, but my uncles, my aunties, my friends and their parents, and just seeing how hard our people can work. It's so inspiring in that sense. And I think for me, it kind of tells me that like, I don't want to say I don't have a choice or I don't have a reason to not work hard, but like it makes me feel like if y'all can go through that and be good, I can utilize the privileges that I have now to be able, like I feel like that, because sometimes you can get comfortable. I feel like here, because we have so much, this access to shit, you don't have to worry about where your meal is going to come from. You don't have to worry about where I'm going to go to school. I didn't have to worry about things because it was created for me. Right. Whereas there's certain things my parents had to worry about, and that's what made them hustle harder. So I think that's something that sometimes a lot of people can benefit, that literally the hustle that Nigerians have, even going back home and, you see if you're stopping at a stoplight and you see kids with baskets on their head trying to sell you fruit, from a young age, like they hustle. They try to get themselves money, they try to get whatever it is that they need. And I think that is a kind of energy that inspires me, that I try to put into my work ethic as much as I can, or just to be inspired by that. So I would definitely say probably those are a few of the things, definitely the family component, the connective component, but also that hustle mentality that Nigerians do have.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, okay. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And that totally, yeah, I mean, the work ethic piece, right? I mean, we were talking a little bit beforehand, like the hustle that you're choosing right now,
Yeah.
creating this amazing brand and helping a lot of people, like capturing amazing images and like continuing to like empower. Tell me more about the photography vision. Like, so you said it kind of, while being in Nigeria, that first visit, it was kind of like light bulbs or stars went off. It was like, okay, I'm a photographer. Yeah. Like I actually want to own this title and, and continue creating. Tell us more a little bit about the storytelling and highlighting Black voices and that importance, and if you don't mind telling us.
No, of course. I think that, I don't know, I feel like there's power in representation, right? There's power in being able to see positive images of the people that look like you. And I think that's where I realized, like, when I went to Nigeria, being able to capture those pictures and have such positive and vibrant pictures of my own people was really important to me. So it was a lot of my work from that point focused on that. Just because when I think about representation, I think that's one thing that a lot of, I hate saying minority, but minority communities deal with, the lack of representation, the lack of positive representation, right? When I think about myself growing up in a predominantly white area, going to a predominantly white school, where I think of who I was in high school, I hated the way I looked. I hated I hated my hair, my weight, my skin color. Like I hated so many aspects of who I was because I didn't really have much I feel like I didn't really have, there wasn't enough representation, positive representation that made me feel loved in who I was, right? And I feel like there's power in photography in the sense of just capturing and creating images that make people feel good, where you can see yourself in somebody else and be like, yo, like I'm inspired by that, or I love the way this girl's wearing her afro, or this girl in her dark, beautiful skin, or whatever the case might be. I think those things go a very, very long way. I think photography for me in that sense has been a healing process for me, because it allows me to kind of, the things that I've struggled with, I now capture, and I really try to show the beauty of that. So that's one thing. But then just making sure that I'm just creating spaces for our voices to be heard. I want to be able to even look through the open room platform. That's why I started that platform, was because I wanted to focus on just trying to do more of that storytelling of Black and Brown people, and showing like, what do Black women just together celebrating and just dancing around, what does that look like? Like not anything that has to be orchestrated, but just real Black women just enjoying life, the power and the beauty behind that. And that was like, I did a project called An Ode to Black Women, which was just focused on that, just celebrating who we are as people, and wanting to do similar projects like that just kind of amplify and show who we are, and show the positive and beauty and the just the energy that we carry. But I think for me, at that point, like I don't know, I think there's power in images, there's power in being able to just capture an image of someone and allow people to feel from that. I don't know if that even makes sense, but I think that's what has allowed me to, I almost feel like now that I'm a photographer, like now I'm in the space that I can call myself a photographer, it's like almost like my responsibility. Like I have a responsibility to create the art that I wish I would have seen growing up, that I feel like would have been helpful for me. And create the art that I want to always see in media. I always want to see images of positive, beautiful Black people living, excelling, doing extraordinary things, doing simple as hell things, like doing anything, whether it's literally you just doing nothing or doing something extraordinary. Like it doesn't matter. Like I just want to keep pushing that kind of content out because people need to see it. And there's power in being able to see yourself in those images. So once I feel like that was probably, again, in that 2018, going to Nigeria and having that light switch go off where I felt like I said, I'm ready to call myself a photographer. That's when I decided, you know what, I now feel like this is what I'm responsible for doing. And even when it comes down to like even just my regular portrait sessions with clients, I have clients that come up to me and they hire me to take their portraits because they say, you know how to photograph Black people. Like even something simple as that. Like, you know, people want to be captured well. They want to be able to look at a digital photo of themselves and say that looks like me. You know, and far too often when people edit photos of Black and brown people, they might look orange, their skin tone is off, this and that. So just making sure I can capture someone well so they can refer back to that photo and say, yes, that's me, and not look at it and be like, who's that, you know? So just even as simple terms like that, I feel like that's a responsibility that I have. And that's why photography for me has become so, so important over the past few years.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's heal. I hear you saying it's like it's almost healing work for you, where where you're like that which you wished you had seen more of growing up. It's like, all right, well, what can I do about that? It's
Exactly.
like I've got to allow the next generation of young Black girls to see. Yeah.
I can sit here and complain and be like, dang, like I wish that there were more of this or that, but like I can now take control of that narrative. Like I have a way that I can take control and push forward content, and whoever sees it, but at least I know I am doing something about that, because I can say, you know, I know what I needed. You know, I know what 18-year-old Idara needed to see.
Yeah.
And I want to create that content because I don't know if there's going to be another girl who needs to see that. You know, I have people, even that work in Nigeria, I have people who are other Africans who haven't got home and they connect to that, you know, and being able to just connect and see an aspect of who you are and an image is a powerful thing. So if I can do that, if I have a camera that will allow me to do that, then it's my responsibility for me to do it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And yeah, so I'm two questions come to mind. One is where you know, if you were to dream up like where this photography, you know, vision, you know, you're visioning like the abundant vision that you have for what, you know, okay, the projects that you get are, you know, I'm sure you're just ideas just pop, right? You have ideas popping all the time. But it's like, you know, if there was a vision where it's like, okay, you know, dream world. I remember people have like written, you know, this is my goal up on their ceiling or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have some like out there dreams where you're like, ooh, I want to be featured on da da da, or this is, you know, or are there any of those that?
Well, there definitely are. You know, there's goals in the sense of I would love to. I think where I'm at, I want to be able to align with different companies and organizations that have the same vision that I have. And being able to collaborate and have somebody, you know, fund a lot of my ideas or give me a budget to do a certain project on a larger scale. I think that would be cool. Obviously, there's certain, whether there's other like creatives I hope to meet or just artists I hope to one day photograph or stuff like that. There's certain milestones. Like I love one person that I say that I have to photograph before I die is Issa Rae. That is one person that I have to like. So I have milestones like that. I don't know how I'm gonna photograph her. I don't know when, but I know one day I put it out in the atmosphere that one day I will shoot Issa Rae because she's one of my biggest inspirations, just in general. I do want to one day have my own like studio space and you know have somewhere that I can actually a space that I can work out and call my own. And I want to get to a place where I'm, you know, traveling for photography and document the same way I was able to go home and document my home. I want to be able to travel to other places, whether they're cities or other countries, and tell the stories of those people there. I think that's an aspect. I don't do a lot outside of me going to Nigeria. I don't do a lot of like documentary type photography, but I do really enjoy that because I think that's where really that storytelling comes from. And like not an authentic true stories, you know, not me fabricating or trying to put together a concept, but a true story that is existent that I am just capturing with my lens. I want to get more into that. So whatever that looks like, I know that there's certain like aspects that I like, so I want to do that. I want to keep doing just creative work in general, but hopefully being able to do it on a larger scale, hopefully having my own studio space that I can work out of, and just seeing where it goes from there. So
Yes, yes. And so it is. That sounds amazing.
thank you.
What is Issa Rae as far as inspiration? Like how has she inspired you? Say more about.
I think, man, one thing I love about Issa Rae is that in everything that she does, she has the show Insecure. I think that show has been really, really pivotal for, even before that, she used to have a YouTube series called Awkward Black Girl. And the one thing I love about her work is that you can see yourself. If you can't see yourself in it, you can see someone you know, like in the characters and the experiences. Like these are real life experiences that we've gone through, I've gone through, my friends have gone through, and being able to see someone capture and tell her story so well is so inspiring. So there's that.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by her story and her hustle. Like she started off on YouTube creating, in college, creating a web series called Awkward Black Girl. When you watch it now, like it was terrible quality. Like it wasn't like it wasn't like she had a whole production. Like it was just her wanting to do this thing, and her now being in the space where like she's on the I think the 4th or 5th season of her show. She's doing movies, she's writing, she has her own businesses. Like she has so many things that she's grown to have now. But she's still true. She has the same essence that she had when she started. So like she hasn't, like me being able to watch her journey, she hasn't shifted, she hasn't changed. She's the same person that I loved at the beginning. I just love her more now.
Yeah.
That just had been able to do some pretty dope things, and dope things where she's again pushing forth the narratives of black people, black women. And so I think that's, I love her project so much. I love who she is, her energy. And I love that she's still true to who she is, regardless of how much quote unquote fame that she has and how many people know her, all the success that she's had. She's still true to that. And I hope to have that kind of journey, a similar journey, or have certain things that that I can mimic within my own space. And hopefully I want people to look at my work and see themselves, or see someone they know the same way I look at her work and I see myself and see people that I know. So she's just a huge inspiration. So hopefully one day, some way, somehow, I can make my way to LA and meet her, and just I'll do it for free. Like I just need to take one. I'm just like, give me one shot. That's all I need.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be more than that.
I'm hoping so.
That's what I'm guessing. I'm yeah, I mean, with the work you're doing, I mean, I just think that as you keep pouring your love into it, it's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm super inspired by the work you're doing.
Thank
So
you.
as you're thinking about, two final questions as we round out our conversation. First one is, as you've been talking, like, I'm thinking 2020 has been a year, in our country. We're a year of a reckoning, a cleansing, like we've been shown all of our pimples and our, our imperfections and all the crap that's wrong, right? I mean, I feel like it's just been, hey, yep, that's there. Hey, yeah, that's there.
That's a great way to think about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, right? We just kind of like, I don't know, maybe we're in pretend mode there for a bit. Some of us, I mean, I acknowledge that was some of me, So how have you walked through 2020? I know you've said that professionally it's been nice, like working from home has been a blessing, having your full-time work, and then your, this photography dreams and visions and work that you're doing too. But yeah, as you've walked through 2020, any reflections just for our listeners, and just that that have come up for you, like as you've been processing through all that's transpired and it's continuing to transpire?
Yeah. I think that 2020, it's a year that I go back and forth with, because it was business-wise and work-wise a very, very successful year for me, in the sense of, excuse me, in the sense of like just opportunities that I had to do, like being able to do some work with Apple, or I did a moment grant where I was like the recipient of one of their first grants, and being able to do a project off of that, and just other cool things, and the recognition that I got, especially for the self-portrait series that I have going on right now. There was a lot of good that came out of the year that I didn't expect to come out, especially in the midst of quarantine. Like it started in like July till now.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also a very, very outside the professional space. It was very, very exhausting. Both like just the world and the state of the world. Also like personally, like, seeing what, I've lost some friends and lost some loved ones, and just emotionally just draining. And so I think the one thing that I prioritize and what 2020 has shown me, regardless of the success or the tragedy, the one thing that's been consistent is my relationships with people. I say that like 2020 was the best year for me in the sense of reminding myself why it's so important for me to have like my tribe, the people that, whether it's my family, my close friends, and staying connected to them, checking in with them, and making sure everyone is doing it well, and just having a level of connectiveness that I don't think I had before. I'm so used to being very, very busy and moving, like whether even not even photography related, just life related. I went through, like, even in college, while I was finishing on my master's degree, I was working full time and doing an internship and still doing photography. And so I was burnt out 24/7, and people would be like, "Hey, Idara, I texted you like 3 weeks ago." And I'm like, I can't, I don't have the energy to even check in with you.
Yeah,
2020 forced me to slow down. It's forced me to just kind of like, in the midst of quarantine, a lot of work stopped in the beginning of it. So I was forced to slow down. And it gets really lonely at home. So you're forced to call your friends.
uh-huh.
You're doing more FaceTimes, and you're doing more, Zoom calls. I have a group of friends. I have a group of friends that are 2 separate groups that I brought together to start watching Insecure when the season started at the beginning of quarantine, maybe around April. And we came together just so we could watch the show. And it's every Sunday. That was what we started. And then the show stopped, and we still meet every Sunday just to talk.
That's awesome.
So I think that is, when I reflect on 2020, it was a very exhausting year, especially like with endless, Black people being murdered, the election, all of these different things that have just been so exhausting. But I think where I found my comfort in, where I have allowed myself to remain grounded, is definitely with the people that I surround myself around, and making sure I stay connected to them. I don't try to, if I'm feeling some kind of way, if I'm struggling, I know who I can call. And I'm a very private person, and I don't like to let people know when I'm struggling. But this year has forced me to be like, yo, like, I'm not okay. Like, I need to talk to someone, and really being able to be mindful and know how important those relationships are has definitely been a highlight and a benefit to this year.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for dropping us in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you're amazing. First off, I'm so thankful for you taking time and making this happen. And yeah, my prayer is that, your work continues to expand and grow and touch people's lives. When I came across you on Instagram and stuff, I'm like, your work is healing. I mean, this podcast is, it's about, it's healing. The work you're doing is healing work, like, in my opinion. And, when you're describing it, as you're kind of talking through it, and you're like, yeah, it's helping me kind of like heal that stuff. And it's helping my family like see images that are just, you're seeing their essence, and they're getting to capture family tradition and love, familial love. And so anyway, I'm proud of the work you're doing, and just super inspired. And to close, I guess my typical final question is, 20,000 people in the room. And you're the closing act, and you're down to the last couple minutes of your presentation. And so you're kind of the last couple minutes, you're gonna just say, here are the 3 things, or here are the 2 things that, like, your little life wisdom nuggets. So for those who listen in, what do you know, obviously we've gotten nuggets throughout your whole sharing today, but like, as you think, what are just a couple pieces that you would invite our listeners to just consider on their journey as they go forward, and they're in that room, like listening, ready to like write down whatever you're going to share. What would you offer them?
Wow. I would offer them one, self-care. I think that's the first one, because I've needed to use, that's been a huge thing for me. And it's something I'm still working on, because I know that I can't, if I'm not okay, nothing else can get done. I can't be there for other people if I'm not okay and if I don't take the time for myself. So that's the first thing. And self-care, not in just in the sense of like, taking time to relax, but like, one of the things that I'm trying to be better about, especially in the midst of COVID, I kind of fell off, but also just like maintaining my relationship with God and just knowing, making sure I have a source that I'm connected to that's filling up my cup when I run empty. Because if I run empty and I have nothing else to connect to, then what good am I at that point? So that's that I realm that all into this category of self-care. So my religion, God, and just taking care of yourself. So that's one thing. The second thing I would say is maybe purpose. I think being able to have, I think it's really, really important. For me, life starts to be a lot more exciting when I feel like I'm meant to do something, like I was actually created to do something. And I'm like, yo, like I have a purpose. Like I'm on this earth because God intended for me to do X, Y, and Z. Like that's dope. Like, and it's not, and I don't think purpose is like, I'm still, it changes and it evolves, but knowing that I'm meant to be here for a reason, I think that has been really, really helpful. Because there's times where like, even in photography, where I'm like, oh, I don't like my work. What's the purpose of this? Like, I feel like it's just like, why am I doing this work? And then I get that one person that like connects to it or says something. And even you just saying my work is healing, that reminds me of my purpose. So that's the second thing. And then I would say the third thing is to stay connected, whether that way with family, with friends, just making sure you have people that you can stay connected with, people that can call you out on your shit, people that can, you can love on, you can connect to, because the thing is like, no, like there's power in unity. And I really, really, if there's one thing that I have learned this year, you're not guaranteed another day. And so just being able to love as much, enjoy as much as you can, but enjoy with the people that you love. So your family, your close friends, giving people a phone call when you need, like if it's been a while, because I know I, struggled with that, and just making sure you're checking in on the people that you love and you're connecting with them. So if I had to drop, I think those would be my three. So self-care, purpose, and then staying connected. So
yes. Those are, yes, that's so dreamy. You're amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Well, folks, this is episode 19. Idara Ekpoh. Definitely find her stuff on Instagram. Her website is linked there. I'll make sure I have that here on this video, so you can also just access that in the description below. Wow. What a gift you are. And you just know that we need you. We need your voice. We need, I'm just impressed and amazed by what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And those of you who decided to stop by today, big gratitude to you for your support, and just continuing to make courageous choices. I think at the end of the day, if we can all make courageous choices to say yes to like healing ourselves, helping others heal, and helping take care of this earth, I think we're all going to experience life a little bit more easily and more wonderfully together. So anyway, thank you so much, Idara. And yeah, so good.
Of course.